Welcome everyone to our live show. We are so excited that you're here. Today we have my first guest. It is Drew Allison. We're very excited. Drew, how are you doing today?
Doing very well. Berta, how are you?
Awesome. Um, are you are you using your audio um, items in your ears?
Should be, yes. I would
Okay,
assume so.
cool. We're getting a little bit of feedback. Do you want to just is there a way that you could remove those? Just use your internal mic. Is that okay?
You can try that.
Sorry, I didn't notice it until just now. Guys, we're figuring this out. So you get to live see that we're figuring it out. Good thing right now, Drew, is I'm seeing that we don't have any viewers. So
How does that sound?
much better. I'm not getting any clipping on the sound. So
Okay. Good.
well, great. I'm so excited that you're here. So everyone, this is Drew Allison. Really excited that it's my pleasure to welcome Drew to the newly podcast this morning. And Drew, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, thanks for having me, Berta. Excited to be here. So my name's Drew. I have, you know, I guess in the context of what we're here to talk about, I've been in sales for 20 years. So sales really has been a massive part of my life. And I grew up halfway between Chicago and Milwaukee in northern Illinois, and I started my sales journey at a small concession stand at a local pool. And that was back when I was 14. And today I am the vice president of personal lines insurance for Assured Partners Illinois, overseeing all of the sales, service, technology, and marketing for the personal lines department for the state. So it's been quite a journey, a lot of steps along the way, and just excited to be here and talk a bit about it.
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that detail. I'd like to start just understanding a little bit more, if you want to dive just a touch more into your career journey. So I know you said that you started sales at a concession stand, which is so awesome. Same, I started sales sales and retail when I think I was 14 as a server at a pizza place. So yeah, just tell us a little bit about your journey through sales and how you sort of built your career.
Yeah, so those early days at the concession stand or at Noodles and Company, which is where I sold all through high school. Those are jobs that very easily could have just been transactional. Things that I showed up and I did what I was told, and handled the customers the way that they asked to be handled, and moved on with my day. But it was back then that I learned A, how much fun sales can be, and B, also how satisfying it is to work as part of a team and have a distinct goal that we're all striving for together. So the first sales contest that I ever had was at the concession stand. The goal was to sell one of everything that we had on offer. And
Gosh.
being 14 years old, time is precious, right? You feel like every day is your last. And whoever won that contest got to take a half day off of work paid. It was like 4 hours of paid vacation at 14. And so there was a huge prize on the table. And that really, that introduced me to how much I enjoyed, again, being part of a team, working towards a common goal, friendly competition. And that carried on very much through, high school and into college. Actually, I apologize if there's a little background noise. I'm sorry.
No, I'm not hearing it, so we're good.
But the most fun sales job I ever had was as a tour guide at my university. So I went to Suffolk University. I studied philosophy, and I worked in the admissions office for 3 years. And as a tour guide, I gave tours of the campus to prospective students and their families. Again, not a traditional sales job. It wasn't my job to get the students to actually sign up and show up, but I was that first point of contact. I was the one that was getting them excited about the school, getting them to apply in the first place, and to really give them an honest picture of what the school had to offer and what life at the school would be like. So it was not only selling the positives of the school, but also letting people know what the potential downsides would be, especially if you were
Mm,
expecting a traditional campus education. A quad with
mm,
fraternities, sororities, that
totally.
sort of thing, just wasn't our vibe. We were a downtown Boston campus, 80% commuter, and it was a different culture than most campuses, and
Mhm,
I got to sell people on that. So,
mm,
that was something that when I got a taste of that, being a really honest person in terms of showing people both the positives and the negatives, and giving people an accurate picture and allowing them to make the decision, that's very much how I started selling going forward. So I got into retail right out of college. Wasn't sure what
mm,
I wanted to do. I had that philosophy degree. There weren't grad programs that were really speaking to me at the moment, and I ended up taking 3 or 4 sales jobs simultaneously, so I could stay in Boston and keep working. And had the absolute time of my life. I was working 4 jobs
mm,
this summer after college. 3 of them were sales jobs, and that was when I was introduced to kind of the high end retail industry, and the specifics of selling in retail, selling a product that people genuinely cared about. Not just buying a shirt because you need a shirt, but looking for specific brands, specific products, countries of origin, a specific style, all that sort of thing. I really, really enjoyed helping people pick out these products, and so I learned how to sell from a very consultative standpoint. I also learned how sales integrated with merchandising, marketing, event planning, event execution, reporting, report analysis, the buying of the products, on the wholesale side, and then liquidating the products on the sales side. So I got a very holistic picture of how the business operated
mhm.
in my first retail job, which was called Uniform in Boston, sort of tongue in cheek, and that kicked off a 10-year career in retail, and I had an
Wow.
absolute wonderful time with it, and learned a tremendous amount about myself as well as about managing and developing teams, and developing up and coming salespeople, and being able to transfer that knowledge. So that's become a big part of what I love to do, is not only continue to sell myself, but also develop emerging producers and emerging salespeople. And about 4 years ago, I made
Mm,
the move from retail to insurance. So it was a complete industry shift, but the skills I had learned on the retail side transferred beautifully over to the insurance side in terms of B2B and vendor communication, as well as selling directly to the customer, and being able to handle different types of sales to different types of clients, all simultaneously, as well as being a client and being sold to by vendors. It was a continuation of the skill set that I had developed over the past 10 years. So I've been very lucky. I've had the opportunity to sell insurance, to manage, to build a team. I expanded a team from 20 producers to 60 producers during the
wow, that's
years
amazing.
2019 and 2020. And again, really been able to be an advocate for the sales team and the sales department in terms of the holistic business.
Mm,
Being able to work really well with the marketing team, the analytics team, the finance team. Because I have experience in all those areas. I'm able to really kind of connect the dots, and that's one of the aspects of sales that I really enjoy, is how much I get to interact with other departments.
I love that. I just wanted to say, so I think what's so interesting about what you've pointed out and what you've talked about, I think, is that it's really about helping people. I love that all the way through that there's this aspect of like kind of gaming, that sort of got you the buy-in, but that there's this aspect of like really finding out what makes people tick and helping, consult in that manner to be able to get them to their goal. Can you talk a little bit more about, what's compelling about that for you? What's compelling about being in that consultative role?
Well, when if I'm doing my job right, the whether I'm selling a shirt, a pair of shoes, a homeowner's policy, or a flood policy, that's just the beginning of the relationship. It's
Mm,
not a one and done transaction. It's much more of a, you have an immediate need for a product. I have the expertise to introduce you to that product and help you make the right decision. And in doing so, I will be able to help you make right decisions going forward.
mm,
And,
yeah.
and being that trusted advisor is something that I am very passionate about. So when I was in retail, if my store didn't offer what somebody needed, the first thing I would do would try to get them that product from one of the other stores in the company, right? You want to keep it
Mhm.
in the company if you can.
Yeah.
But if I can't keep it in the company, I do everything I can to try to find that product for them elsewhere and as easily as possible. So,
Mhm.
if I never was really, I never worked at a store that did a lot of formal wear, but people would call up and be like, "Drew, do you have like I need a black tie for New Year's Eve? Can you help me out?" And it's like, "Well, I can't, but I know three places with three different black ties at three different price points. You make the decision that's right for you."
That's
And what's
awesome.
beautiful about that is they think to come to me first because of the
Mhm.
expertise that I've established, and I get to
Mm,
be part of their lives in a repeating way. And I've always
yeah.
really enjoyed that. And then but from an operational standpoint, whatever they end up going to purchase, wherever they end up going to satisfy that need, whether it's the J. Crew black tie or the Burberry black tie or whatever it might be, or on the insurance side, I don't do commercial personally. So if somebody needs a master HOA policy because they're the president of their condo board, I introduce them to somebody, they take care of it.
Right.
Well, that sale and that service that they receive from somebody else is intrinsically tied to me because I was the one that
Yeah.
referred them to that opportunity. So now I'm not just I'm not just giving them a positive experience because of what I can provide, but I'm tying myself to positive experiences they're having all over the place.
Mm.
So another
That's
great example is,
interesting.
I love
Yeah.
giving recommendations for, food, bars, concerts, things like that. And being able to tie myself to those positive experiences that people have, especially when they're traveling, is not only makes me feel good, but again, it really solidifies me as that trusted advisor role for folks, in all areas of their
Absolutely.
life.
Absolutely. So how do we take this into our lives? So you've had a lot of experience in sales discipline, and you've enjoyed being that trusted advisor and developing that relationship with people. What would you tell to somebody who thinks that sales isn't relevant to the rest of their life? How do you take it into your life?
Well, it's interesting that there's a lot of stigma around being a salesperson, right?
Mm,
There's Glengarry Glen Ross. There's the
mhm,
image of the sleazy car salesman. There's the always be closing concept, and
mhm,
it's not wrong, right? This is how salespeople often operated, and historically, people didn't really have to interact with salespeople too often because, and so when they did, it was this really negative experience because of the way these
yeah,
folks decided to operate. And the real reason that salespeople operated that way was because they had all the knowledge and the consumer knew nothing. This
mhm,
is pre-internet days when the consumer now knows more than the salesperson. So the role of the salesperson has shifted dramatically in the past 30 years.
wow.
And
It's like a shift in
the
that power dynamic. That's so interesting.
it's a very direct shift in the power dynamic, absolutely. And the idea is that as a salesperson in the post-internet age, your job is not always to educate. Because in the past, it was your job was the gatekeeper of information, and clients
Mhm,
had to kind of earn the right for you to educate them. And you could, and there was that fear that if you weren't telling them everything they needed to know. So there was always this fear around salespeople. But we're in an opportunity now where we can completely rewrite that history, and
mm,
it's definitely already happening. And what I love is that it's not my job necessarily to educate you. It's one thing
mhm,
that I can do, but really my job is to help you make the right decision for yourself.
right.
And sometimes that comes from an educative standpoint, that comes from giving my opinion, that can come from helping people understand their own opinions.
Mm,
Most of the time, it's helping people figure out what their actual needs are. Because there's so much
mhm,
data, being, there's so much data that we can receive, and there's also so much marketing that's thrown at us,
right.
both genuine marketing as well as influencers and just what our friends and family are doing or people in our community, we might think that we need X brand car or X type of house, and the but the reality is that it might be a different product that really serves our needs better. So,
Right.
so part of what my role can be is to help people understand what they really need. And when we're talking about that, we're going deeper than just a car or a type of house
Right.
or a shirt or an
Right.
insurance policy. We're helping people understand what really motivates them and what can potentially make them happy or satisfied. And
I love
and
that you
that's
talk
the
about, yeah, I love that you talk about motivation. So how do you find motivation? How does your experience with finding motivation in sales translate to your life? How do those bridges cross themselves?
it's a good question. I think it would be naive to say that I'm not motivated by money. Money
Yeah.
is always going to be a component of it. So my own prosperity is absolutely a motivating factor. Um, but at this point, I have sold a lot of products to a lot of different people, and I have a lot of data about myself. And I've learned that I am most motivated when I get the chance to work with people individually
Mm,
and I get a chance to hear from them what the sale means to them. I
mm,
get to I
mhm,
get to get that satisfaction. So when I was selling shoes for about 2 years, I sold handmade American shoes and boots.
mhm,
And so I was selling these to a group, mostly men, who just absolutely loved this product. They loved made in America, they loved handmade, they loved the sustainability, the tradition, all of that. And they really identified it as people. And that sense of Americana tradition, being handmade, long lasting, that went well beyond just boots and shoes.
right.
That was the way they made decisions in their lives. And I got to be part of something bigger than that. Recently, I went to a framing store, to get a couple pictures framed. And the way their business model operates is that you can go into the store and you can see the frames, and you can see samples, and then you leave the art, and then they actually ship the art to a central framing facility and then mail it directly to your house.
Oh, wow.
And as soon as I left, it's a cool model actually, and there's a lot of benefit to it as a consumer. But as soon as I left, I thought that must be the most unsatisfying sales job ever, because you put all this work in consulting with your client, and you don't even get to see the final product. Like you don't get to be the one that finalizes the sale by handing it over to them.
Right.
We had a whole custom boot program where you could pick all these elements to design your own custom pair of shoes that would be a one for one, something for you. And not only did I help people design these products, but I was the person that got to literally open the box and peel back the tissue and allow them to see it. And I got to be
Very
part of that
cool.
that
Yeah.
presentation. And that element of sales is, I think, just absolutely fundamental to the reason why I enjoy it. So it was really interesting to see kind of a different model and think, okay, that would not be the job for me, because
Yeah.
I'd be desperate to see the final product and very rarely get a chance to do so.
So that's so great. I love that there's a motivation in being able to see that final product and to see the excitement and joy that you bring to a customer. Um, Talk about support, some support structures that you put in place to help motivate you to accomplish these sales and what that looks like.
Yeah, so it's the for me, sales boils down to kind of three core elements. There's the purpose, which is a lot of what we talked about already this morning. There's the product, and really believing in your product, which is kind of the most obvious portion. But then there's also the process. And
Mhm.
what is your sales process? And for me, there's very little difference between my sales process when I'm managing a pipeline and selling a product, or the process of managing a team and leading that team, and managing all the
That's
tasks
interesting.
that go through that, or managing elements of my daily life, planning travel, or grocery shopping or things like that. They're all handled with a very similar process, um, because I've been influenced by managing sales pipelines for so long.
And what does that process look like for you? What is that like? Let's say you're planning your grocery list. What does that look like for you? How does that sales process intervene into that? How's it crossover?
100%. So, sale, and you'll hear this from anybody that's been in sales long enough. Sales is all about the dials. It's all about picking up
Mm,
the phone and making the dials. And we're at a time culturally where literally picking up the phone may or may not be the right option. I worked for a high-end French clothing store, and my top producer never made she was a personal shopper. She was Chinese, and she worked with the Chinese market in the Midwest 100% through WeChat. She did it all through
mm.
WeChat. She made more money than I did as the store manager through
So
commissions.
dials is a really
So
like,
yeah,
yeah.
you have to interpret dials for yourself, and but for me and most of the businesses that I've been in, dials are pretty literal, or maybe a text message or an email, and so that's the foundation, and it's getting myself in front of as many opportunities as possible, and then when I'm in front of those opportunities, it's really about educating them as quickly as possible on the service that I can provide and why that service is valuable to them. And I should be able to do that in 10 to 15 seconds. If I can't do that within 15 seconds, I don't believe in the product that I'm selling.
Okay,
And
I love this. So let's take this into life. So let's say someone is trying to find a mate and they're like on a dating app. What does this process look like? What is that? What would that be?
okay, so I want to preface this by saying I am not a relationship or dating expert. I've been with my wife for over 10 years. I don't know much about the dating world, but if I were to treat a dating app like a sales pipeline, the idea would be to get in front of as many people as possible. So
Got
I
it.
would want to at least initiate as many conversations on that app as I humanly can, especially in the beginning. Now, a seasoned salesperson will know that the value of their dial is so big that they don't need to be making the same number of dials as somebody who's new.
Mhm.
So we'll tuck that away for a second. We'll get back
Okay.
to it. But so if I'm new to the dating scene and I want to get better at dating and find what the right person for me, I'm going to want to talk to as many people as possible. I'm going to
Mm.
want, I don't, whether it's swipe right or Bumble this or
Yeah.
whatever. Just talk to as many people as possible. And
Yeah.
and there's there's a lot of value in chatting, through text. But if you can hop on a phone call and hear
Mm.
somebody's voice and hear how they communicate, in my opinion, that feels like a relatively low risk, safe way to get to know somebody a lot faster than just chatting. So,
That's
so
smart.
and that's one of the reasons why when I'm coaching salespeople, and if you get a lead for through an email, the first thing you do is pick up the phone
Got it.
because either you're gonna talk to the person, or B, you're gonna call, you're gonna leave a message, and that voice message is going to be transcribed and sent as a text message. So that
Mm.
one piece of outreach turns into three,
Oh, I
and
love
I
that.
think that's
Smart.
incredibly valuable. And
Mm.
so if I'm dating, I'm going to want to have as many touches with people as I possibly can, and
Right.
really get to know what people are looking for. What am I looking for? What do I like? What do I don't like? And starting to narrow down that criteria. And again, so often we think we know what's right for us.
Totally.
I think I know what job will make me happy or what food will make me happy. But the reality is, there's so many options out there that keeping an open mind towards all of those options is the best way to really find out how I can be happy. So,
Yeah.
again, with dating, it's getting yourself in front of as many people as possible so you can collect that data without a
Mm.
preconceived notion of what the conclusion might be.
Mhm.
It's kind of taken from grounded theory, if you're anybody out there is familiar with that. But but the idea is that by getting yourself out there with as few barriers as possible,
Yeah.
you're actually going to be able to have more conversations, which
Mm.
will lead to more dates. And
Mm.
and and so if I'm treating dating like I'm treating sales, there's clear steps in the pipeline.
Right.
There's my dials, which will lead to a texting conversation or a phone call, hopefully, which will then lead to an in-person date or maybe a virtual date, a Zoom
Right.
date first.
Yeah.
Depending on your preference and your style. whatever it is, but you have those distinct levels of areas of the pipeline. And the most important thing for me, and this is actually where I know that I fall short a little bit when it comes to, let's say, grocery shopping. I The most important thing is to hit every element of your pipeline on every single day. You hit
Yeah,
every element of your pipeline every single day.
I
And
like
I know
that.
this is a bit of a trial today. My air conditioning just came on, so again, if there's a little background noise, I apologize.
No, we're
Uh,
good. We're good.
but
Wait, I want to pause you just for a second because there was
yeah,
something that's so interesting about what you said about that. Once you're in sales, you send an email. Once you get that email connection, you call right away. What's so interesting to me about that is neurochemically, like we're designed for human connection. So as soon as they can hear your voice and consider you a human and not just a message, like that really connects people to who you are, and then you can start to build relationship. And I think I love that idea. And I wanted to draw attention to that, and how you humanize yourself and become not just a face on email, but a person to them.
100%. Yeah, yeah. It is really about imprinting an accurate picture of yourself onto the people that you're talking to as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, spot on, spot on. I love that. So yeah, so the problem is if you don't hit every element of your pipeline every single day, if you don't do your dials, if you don't have a meeting, if you don't have a video date, and you don't have a date, you're going to get these bottlenecks in your pipeline. So you may have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people that you're chatting with, but then you haven't converted them to the phone call, and then you haven't converted them to the date. Or you may have a couple people that you're dating, you may have gone on one or two dates with, but you're not 100% sure yet, and then it doesn't work out for whatever reason. If
Mm-hmm.
you haven't kept your pipeline up, from the earlier stages, the swiping right and the chatting, then all of a sudden you have to start from scratch. And
Yeah.
sometimes starting from scratch isn't a bad thing.
Right.
In this example, you may have learned a lot about yourself in that first, going through the full cycle, and then you can restart the cycle with new data.
Right.
But typically, if you let your pipeline run dry at any point, you'll run out of opportunity to make the sale at some point. And
Mm.
this often happens when people go on vacation and they don't plan that vacation accordingly, and the
Mm.
pipeline dries up while they're gone, and then they have to fight to get the pipeline back up and running.
Mm.
And these are all supernatural things. These happen to me all the time. I
Yeah.
talk about with like grocery shopping. Like I am the worst at maintaining my pipeline for shopping, cooking, planning, shopping. Those are sort of the steps, right?
Yeah.
Shopping, cooking, planning, shopping. And so it doesn't have to be complicated. And
Yeah.
I'm terrible at it when it comes to that example. I,
Mm.
I have to restart my pipeline every single week. And my wife's like, what are you going to make for dinner this week? And I have no idea because I haven't put any thought to it. I haven't done the planning stage. I
Mm-hmm.
haven't I haven't hit the planning part of that pipeline
Right.
enough. And
Right.
so it's brutal, to be honest. And but the solution is clear,
Yeah.
looking at kind of the pipeline management skills that I've developed, and that I think can be really useful in all areas of life.
I love that. And I love that you're kind of, it seems like, I'm not sure, but it seems like you have this sort of like playful view of it, that it's like sort of this game and that it's more of like a play, and that things are in play and you're trying to move through it in that way. How does, like, talk more about that. Talk more about how you sort of motivate yourself in that way.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's in sales, there's a couple things that we always say. One is smile and dial, right? If you have a smile on your face, people on the other end of the phone can literally hear the smile. Your
Yeah.
voice sounds different, your pace is different, your energy is different. It's the same thing with talking with your hands. When I was in my first insurance bullpen and I was selling all day every day, I'd be sitting there and I'd be dialing and I'd be leaving voicemails. But when I got somebody on the phone, I stood up, and then I'd
Mm.
stand up and I would be much more animated. My voice would increase. My hands would be gesturing, and I knew that I was projecting an energy, onto through the phone. Whether or
Mm.
not it was distracting the rest of my coworkers is probably a topic for another podcast. But that motivation that intrinsic motivation to feel good with what I'm doing and to project it physically first and then kind of emotionally and vocally second. Um,
Mhm.
that's what I find, and it's, and sometimes it's, I get motivated through, like I talked about earlier, through prosperity, through having,
Yeah.
my own financial goals. When I was selling at Noodles and Company in high school, again, I was just a cashier. My job was not to quote unquote sell, but
Yeah.
my manager gave me goals in terms of upsell. How often can you upsell the protein add-ons, the bread, the bottled beverages, the beers,
Yeah.
whatever it was. And we ran little sales contests all the time, and it was so much fun. But in the back of my mind, I was like, I know that I am using this money to go on a big trip when I graduate high school.
Mhm.
I thought about that for probably a full year, where all the money that I was making was going straight into that trip. And having that goal and being very clear about it and breaking the goal down. So that's
Mhm.
how I kind of find that daily motivation. Like if I can if I can upsell, so many pieces of bread and so many protein add-ons, my boss is tipping me out an extra $20, and that $20 is 2 days worth of food when I'm traveling.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
it's like, so suddenly it becomes a real thing. Like I really have an application for this $20 that I'm
Mhm.
going to be spending. And sometimes those micro goals within the larger goal can be really, really helpful as well.
I
So
love that you're making it tangible. Like, I love that that translates so well to life. Like creating a goal, but not just creating that goal. Make it tangible in some way, in a way that you can representatively see it in your real life. I just love this so much. So we're kind of at time right now. I would love to get to some rapid fire questions, if you wouldn't mind,
sure.
just for fun. So whatever you have off the top of your mind. So what is the most random job that you've ever had?
Oh geez. So one time in college, my mom worked for an odor neutralizing company that
Okay.
had products that, so it was like clean up bad smells, like in your dorm room, but like they also had commercial grade, like for like chemical plants. And I worked the booth for a commercial odor neutralizing company at the fishing expo in Boston.
Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah.
so awesome.
That was probably one of the most random jobs I've ever had.
I feel like that would be hard to sell. Be like, you smell like fish. You probably need this.
Right.
Just
You smell like fish. Do you not want to smell like fish? Your whole plant smells like fish, and your neighbors
oh
are mad at
man,
you. Do you want to
do you want
neutralize it?
this?
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
a
I
very
love it. It's
it
a
was
compelling
excuse
selling
me,
point.
an interesting sale.
Talk about making it tangible, man. Okay, well, so next rapid fire. What advice would you give to someone coming fresh out of college? Just top of your head.
Excuse me, I apologize.
Oh, you're fine.
So, that's it's a tough question because everybody comes out of college in a slightly different place and knowing more or less about what they want out of life. But I would say that keep a strong catalog of who you meet and who they are.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
one of the important things about being a salesperson is having a CRM, a
mhm.
customer relationship management tool. Like Salesforce is the most known. And the reason it's so important is because there's a spot in every customer profile for notes.
Mhm.
What sports team does this person like? Are they married? Do they have kids? Did they reference a certain hobby? Did they, what do you know about this person that you can reference later in life? And LinkedIn's a great place to do it, but
Mm.
keep keep a record and a catalog of of the people you meet and how you know each other, because you never know when those relationships will serve you.
Oh,
And
that's so good. That's so good,
so
Drew. I love
and
that. Yeah, fantastic advice. I love it. Keep a record of the people. You never know how that relationship is going to connect. I can tell you for sure. There's been so many times when a random connection has turned into something really fruitful. So okay. Last question, and then we're going to wrap it up here. What is a song that you listen to pump yourself up, to motivate yourself, to get yourself going?
oh geez, all right, well, The song I listened to this morning, I guess the cool answer would be "Career Opportunities" by The Clash, right? Very
Okay,
apropos of what we're talking
okay,
about.
okay.
Also, a really great song. Um, but I'm not gonna lie, "Radioland" by Ashley McBryde. If you don't know that
Oh,
song,
okay.
it's an absolute banger, and it gets me going every single time.
Oh
So
my
that's
gosh,
that's my that's my
Radioland.
honest answers to that.
Well, fantastic. I'm gonna have to look it up. Thank you so much for joining me today, Drew. This was just been an awesome conversation, and I really appreciate you testing this out with me, being my first live guest,
Happy to
and
be here.
I can't wait to see what you have coming up in your future.
Sounds great. Thanks a lot, Britta. Good luck with the
Thank you so
podcast.
much. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.